Hi, I'm Schizofenik and welcome to Reviews, Rants and Recommendations. In this episode, I'll be taking a look at Batman The Long Halloween Part 1, which is based on the graphic novel where Batman investigates a series of murders that occur during the annual holidays. With the assistance of District Attorney Harvey Dent and Captain Jim Gordon, Batman tries to identify the killer and intercept him on any major national holiday. After being massively disappointed with The Killing Joke, which was turned into a Batgirl story, I set my expectations lower for this, but also hoped that it would remain truer to the source material. So, what did I like about this film? Gotham City. One of the standout features from this film was its depiction of Gotham City, which looked absolutely magnificent. Right from the opening frame, we were greeted with an establishing shot that seemed to pay homage to Burton's shot in the 1989 Batman. I will come back to the idea of intertextuality later. Chris Palmer's Gotham paints this epic Art Deco cityscape that suits the feel of the movie perfectly. You really get to appreciate it during the chase between Catwoman and Batman as they navigate the rooftops, gargoyles, and walls of these awe-inspiring buildings. The Gothic clock tower is also a fantastic touch that really stands out against its deco surroundings. These stunning Art Deco visuals are continued in the internal shots, as every frame literally looks like a work of art. I was so impressed by this version of Gotham that I would actually need to go back and re-edit my top 5 depictions of Gotham City video and place Chris Palmer's ahead of Snyder's and Nolan's, but behind that of Burton's and the animated series, as well as the Arkham video game franchise. The film noir style. Obviously, the Art Deco setting helped the film noir visual style of the movie massively, but it was also assisted further by being set in a bygone era. Based on the cars and architecture, I would say that the film was set in the 1940s or 50s, which really is where Batman belongs in my opinion. The film noir aspect was spot on, and certain frames seem directly lifted from the gangster movies of the 1940s, as you can see here. These visuals were further enhanced with the German expressionist canted camera angles, dark shadows, and chiaroscuro lighting that also made the animated series so popular. The animation style. After watching the trailers to this film, I instantly became a huge fan of the art style. I must confess that I was never a fan of Tim Sale's original stylized artwork, which always looked messy to me. Therefore, Warner Bros.' new thick style of line work not only worked better than their previous films, but also surpassed the artwork from the original comic in my opinion. I know that this is an unpopular view, and I'm not saying that Tim Sale's artwork is not good. It is good, but it's just not to my taste. The artwork in this movie offered a fresh take on the characters, with clean lines, while simultaneously maintaining a comic book look. The intertextuality. It may just be my imagination, however I felt that this film referenced, or at least took inspiration from a lot of other media. Aside from the establishing shot that I alluded to, the inside of Wayne Manor looked a lot like Hatfield House, where Burton's internal shots of Wayne Manor were filmed. The lead up to Arkham Asylum seemed similar to the mountain route towards the hotel in The Shining, and the asylum's internals were clearly a homage to Silence of the Lambs. In addition to this, I even felt like the chase across the rainy rooftops of Gotham were a nod to Seven, where Brad Pitt's character chases Kevin Spacey's John Doe. The Falcone crime family were clearly inspired by The Godfather, and Carmine even says, "So I made him an offer," before stopping himself in mid-sentence, possibly to avoid any lawsuits. These intertextual moments seem perfectly cherry-picked to suit the movie, and whether they were deliberate or not, I really think they added to the film's appeal. The action scenes. The action scenes are few and far between, however this is not the fault of the film, as the comic also was written in this way. However, when the action scenes arrive, they pack real punch and break up the dialogue well. I particularly enjoyed the car chase scene, which looks like it was straight from a live-action movie. The pacing. The Long Halloween is split into 2 parts, which is completely justified as it is adapting a graphic novel that depicts a year-long murder mystery across 13 issues. The film is well paced and successfully reorders some of the events of the comic to help a very complicated graphic novel make sense in audiovisual form. This 2-part format allows the film to breathe, giving it time to flesh out the key characters fully. In fact, the film was so successful in doing this that it did a better job than the source material in some instances. The portrayal of the supporting characters. I thought the performances and depictions of the supporting characters were fantastic in this animated film. Firstly, the late Naya Rivera's performance as Catwoman was awesome, as she captured the character's playful nature perfectly. I also like the fact that the film paid tribute to Rivera, who died heroically while saving her son last year. Other great portrayals included Billy Burke's Jim Gordon, Jack Quaid's Alberto Falcone, who came across as a very sympathetic character, and Alistair Duncan as Alfred, who displayed the butler's sardonic wit beautifully. Special mention should go to Josh Duhamel, who voiced Harvey Dent in a standout performance that subtly displayed the character's duality. Also, David Dastmalchian was masterful in his scene as the Calendar Man, giving audiences a genuinely creepy version of the villain that blended the masculine with the effeminate. The parallels with Hannibal Lecter are abundantly clear in both the film and the comic. However, in my humble opinion, the character that stole the show was none other than the Joker. Troy Baker's Mark Hamill-esque performance is spot on and easily recognisable to fans. Aside from the voice acting, Baker's delivery of the Joker's punchlines are superb and the character is genuinely funny. Now, I'm not sure if others found the Joker funny, or if I'm just going mad giggling at the limericks of a psychopath. However, I actually found myself laughing out loud at a number of the Joker's scenes. Furthermore, these moments were not lines from the comic, but actually new lines of dialogue written for the film, which greatly added to the character. Honestly, the Joker's humour is a real triumph for this film and offers some much needed comic relief to a very dark story. So, what did I dislike about this film? The depiction of Batman. Despite being hugely impressed by the plethora of supporting characters, I was not too keen on Batman. I found the look of The Dark Knight a little bland, and Jensen Ackles' performance was passable, but nothing too special. Although I thought his voice acting was okay, at times it did seem a little off and inconsistent. However, this is only a very small gripe, and I am nitpicking here. In his defence, Ackles did manage to capture the mood of a hero who is struggling to be a detective this early on in his career. The title cards. The title cards, which tell us which holiday season it is, were a little uninspiring, and I think the film could have taken some cues from the animated series regarding this. In my opinion, each title card should look like its own piece of art, but the film just used freeze frames, which were a little hit and miss. For instance, the very first title card looks fantastic and adopted the Art Deco style of the animated series. Aside from that, the rest really did not do too much for me, but again, I am being overly critical here. The score. We have been spoilt by Danny Elfman's masterful music over the years, as well as the work of Ron Fish in Arkham Asylum. However, this film seems to lack its defining sound. At times, I do think that the silence suits the mood, such as the Seven-style chase scene, where we can only hear the rain and running footsteps. However, at other times, some non-diegetic music really is needed. My overall conclusion. As an adaptation of a comic book that is considered to be one of the greatest Batman stories of all time, this animated film had an unenviable task. Despite this pressure, The Long Halloween strikes a perfect balance between remaining faithful to the original source material whilst also adding its own individuality. Often the film's deviations from the graphic novel are actually improvements, giving the story more depth and modernising it for today's audiences. On other occasions, scenes are immaculately lifted straight out of the comics, which will appease the die-hard fans. I feel that this film was a huge triumph for Warner Bros. And DC Comics. As a result, I am highly anticipating Part 2. In the meantime, if you have not seen The Long Halloween Part 1, I can highly recommend it. This film scores a very good 4 stars. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Reviews, Rants and Recommendations, but until next time, it's goodbye from me.